Robert Plank Show, episode 83, Laws of Success and the Problem Solver's Mindset. Become an above average entrepreneur, get results out of every course you consume, and succeed in every journey you take. Welcome back to the Robert Plank Show. This is the Internet Marketing Radio Podcast, where we talk about making money, membership sites, webinars, sales letters, and a whole lot more. A lot of fun stuff. We're going to talk today about how do you win at everything? How do you complete everything you start? Whatever projects, whatever websites, whatever books, whatever plugins you have in your head or half finished or 90% of the way finished, how do you get it to the 100% mark? With whatever courses you're taking, how do you make sure that you actually stick to what you put your money into? And if you're currently attending a course about traffic or about Facebook or about Google or about, I don't know, retargeting social media, writing a book, whatever, how do you make sure you get the most out of it? Well, we're going to share 7 do's and 7 don'ts where I've looked back at how I've changed and how I went from being the kind of person, maybe you can relate, who was really scatterbrained, who would buy a new $5, $7, $10 ebook every day and not really finish. And we're going to get you transformed into a much better mindset, which is the problem solver's mindset, which is the entrepreneurial mindset, and break you out of the employee mindset. Employee mindset's good for getting stuff knocked out, but this book called the EMyth tells us that you can be a worker, a manager, or an entrepreneur. And maybe in your own business, maybe you're the entrepreneur and you have workers, you have a manager, or maybe it's just a 1 or 2 person show, and it might be in your best interest to know when to be a decision maker, to know when to start something new, to know when to change your course of action, but then also know when it's time to just finish that article or that blog post or that podcast you have half done. Maybe it's that on Monday you need to be the entrepreneur, and then on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday you need to be the worker and get all your Monday tasks done, and then on Friday then you're the manager and you go and clean up what needs cleaning up, go back and check your stats, your incomes, help desk, all that kind of stuff. So we're talking about mindset, and I have a question for you. All right, think about this. How many gas stations exist in the United States? The United States of America, how many gas stations? And the answer itself isn't that important, but what I want to know is, what was your reaction to that? If your reaction to that was, well, I don't know, why even bother? If your reaction to that was, well, that's a dumb question, then you're not in the problem solver's mindset. I don't want you to be neurotic or OCD or anything like that, but if I ask you how many gas stations exist in the United States, well, let's just kind of think about it. Let's think about maybe how many cities are in the U.S. Maybe, I don't know, 10,000. You figure even a small town might have 2 or 3, and a large town might have 1,000. So maybe we can think about how many cities are in the U.S. and maybe the average number of people and cars, and then the average number of gas stations exist, and you can kind of have whatever answer. Maybe if your answer is there's, I don't know, 100,000 or 200,000, or if you figure that, well, there are 300 million Americans, and maybe out of adults, maybe there's, I don't know, 100 million, and then maybe most of them, but not all of them, have cars, and maybe they fill up their cars once a week. And then when you go to any given gas station, maybe there's 3 or 4 cars there, and each car takes 10 minutes to fill up. But you see what I mean? Like, someone asks you a question, it might be a hard question, it might be a question that's difficult to answer, but if you broke down the question into smaller sub questions, you could actually get to some kind of a best guess estimate. I was camping once as a kid, and it was 8 o'clock in the morning, and one of the kids was carrying around a flashlight. And one of the scoutmasters said, you don't need your flashlight. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. Out of all the things you could be carrying around, all the things you could have available right now to you, at 8 o'clock in the morning when it's super bright, you don't need that right now. That's your last priority. But unfortunately, when you see the average person, and by the way, you're listening to this program, so you're above average, but at times we can fall back into old habits. And at times we are the equivalent of holding a flashlight at 8 o'clock in the morning. We're concerned more about office space and business cards than where our next $1,000 is going to come from. There's a saying that if you want it done, ask a busy person, or even Bill Gates has a quote that says, I choose a lazy person to do a hard job, because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it. Especially when computers and computer programming and websites are involved. Many times, instead of doing the work, whatever the work entails, instead of doing the same steps 10 times, 50 times, maybe you can make a website and clone it or copy it, and that way you're so-called lazy, but you're more productive than that hard worker, so to speak. And we don't want to be just busy. We don't want just activity. We want to be productive, which means that we produce things, which means that you have something to show for your efforts. And I didn't even think this was a thing until I experienced it, but there's definitely some kind of a pride factor into putting in long hours. And you might hear of some business owners or entrepreneurs that are proud of putting in their 12-hour days or 100-hour weeks, but then you realize that, well, they might talk a lot, but I don't really see them doing too much. And the answer to that is a thing called 4 daily tasks. We mentioned that on almost every podcast, and you can join our Facebook group at 4dailytasks.com/group. I've mentioned this before, it bears repeating, that I do a 10-minute task in the early morning, a 40-minute task in the morning, a 40-minute task in the early afternoon, and then another 40-minute task in the late afternoon. And it sounds like a lot of stuff, but it's more than you would probably get done in an 8 or 10-hour day, and it's a total of, I think, like 2 hours and 10 minutes of actually getting things knocked off. And now here's the other thing too, is that you don't have to be excited, motivated, energized every single day in order to get your tasks completed. Now, if I can be completely honest, for the last couple of days, I haven't had the willpower. So what did I do? I'll tell you exactly what I did. I first of all decided on and wrote out my 4 tasks for that day. As we said, a 10-minute task, a 40-minute, 40-minute, and a 40-minute task. And you know what? Right now, I'm going to go, and you're free to join this group at 4dailytasks.com/group. And I'm going to post my 4 tasks that I'm going to complete today. Okay, so off the top of my head, we had one task that was a SF. You don't have to know what that is, but I sure as heck do. Recording this podcast, we're going to be doing some debugging, and then we're going to do a class. Boom, I've just posted the 4 things. I didn't go and do them already, but I just listed the 4 things I'm going to do today. That's part of it. Then posting it in the group, even though you have all your tasks shortened, abbreviated, so that only you know what they are, it still has an effect. You still feel bad if people go and like your post in that group, or if you see that others viewed your post and you didn't complete it, and you're going to feel even worse when, or if you don't get any of those 4 tasks done and you find yourself posting the same thing again tomorrow. It's okay to repeat a couple of things, but you're going to feel bad if you make 0 progress, and maybe if you even realize how little progress you made and it's time to make a course correction. So that's the 4 daily tasks system, the structure. But on top of that, on top of the posting on the group, what also helped me was I have a software called Camtasia Recorder, and this morning I had to get some stuff knocked out. One of my tasks, the task called DHSF, and so it involved me, I had to write a couple of emails. And so I sized my screen down to a size of 1024 by 600, and that's the size that at the moment I sized my screen down to record a video. And I used Camtasia Recorder, and I recorded my screen, and I put on my USB headset, recorded my voice just like I'm talking to you right now, and I said to myself, here's what needs to happen. And just the fact that you're recording your screen helps so much. And then the final nail in the procrastination coffin was I then took out my cell phone, and I held down the button, I said, set a timer for 30 minutes. Oops, let me try this again. It still worked. Awesome. And I'm going to cancel that. Cancel timer. All right. So when I needed to get that writing done, I set my timer for 30 minutes, got it knocked out, and then it was done. And I honestly believe that if I hadn't done that, then that one task would have been the only task I had completed that day. But because I decided on just my 4 tasks for that day, no to-do list, no planning out the whole week, no setting anything on a schedule, but I knew that I had to complete 1 10-minute task and then 3 40-minute tasks, posted it in the group, recorded my screen, and set a timer. I know that might sound like a lot, but it makes it almost impossible for you to not do these things as long as you take it seriously. Now, there's a thing we have called a 3-day window where you can't think about a 100-item to-do list or a 4-week plan. Just what's this week? What are you getting knocked out this week? And when we're talking about our 4 daily tasks, we're listing business tasks. So using the bathroom, exercising, going on a walk, reading a book, none of that counts. That's your own time to worry about. What we're talking about is time spent at the computer building your online business, or if you're not a business builder and you're having productivity issues at your day job or something, then fine. It's the 4 tasks you do at that day job. But we don't just pile up stuff for the sake of it. There's no degrees of doneness. There's no chipping away. There's no starting. There's no continuing. It's all about what did you finish? What can you physically deliver and show me that you created based on those 4 tasks today? And when we list our tasks in the group, or even on a piece of paper by hand, just list out the acronyms of what you're going to do. The name of the website, the name of the book, just because that way we don't want to spend all this time listing out a whole life story, and we don't want others to spy and snoop on. I guess that's the same thing, right? Spying and snooping. We don't want them to see what we're doing. We just want to let them know that there was this task I had to do, I did it, or I did not. And then as far as distractions, don't check your phone, email, Twitter, or the news. Especially the news will find you. And it's probably this day and age easier said than done to break the cell phone addiction, to put that away, but just, I mean, put it away in a drawer, put it away in the other room, turn off the sounds in it. And what's also cool is when you're recording something, like I'm recording this podcast for you right now in one take, I kind of can't go anywhere. I kind of can't let myself get distracted. So let's get you into the problem solver mindset. We already dropped a couple of golden nuggets about getting all your things done, and I just now had to close the browser because Facebook started popping up on me. So I went to Facebook really quick to list my tasks, and even that started kind of sneaking up on me. So we're going to list 7 do's and 7 don'ts, and the do's are most important. Let me just kind of unload them for you. The first do is complete for now. The second one is publish 100 actions. The third is the light at the end of the tunnel. Next is data scientist, computer programmer, rough numbers, and get a coach. We're going to list all these for you at robertplank.com/083. That's where the show notes are. But let me unpack this for you. Now, this phrase complete for now. Well, you can either say that complete for now stands for FOR, or the number 4 FOUR, and both things apply. We want to just keep it simple. Don't fool yourself into thinking that complicated is better, or that having 100 different half-finished projects are better than just one finished project. We want to get the bugs out. We don't want to replicate mistakes across half-finished stuff. And I know that it's tempting to think of all the potential and all the possibility, but I mean, internet stuff changes and moves faster than you think. And you might have a website half done, and a year later, or even a few months from now, you might look at it and say, yee, that looks kind of dated. Let me start over. You don't want to start over. You want to have something that's okay for now, complete for now. And then if you decide in 6 months that it looks dated, you can go ahead and update that, but it's easier to edit, craft, and air. We need to have an abundance mindset, which means that there's room enough for everybody. A rising tide lifts all boats. I'm perfectly fine with making money with webinars, making money with Kindle books, and then selling a course about the same thing. Because if you discover, well, first of all, if you want to know how to make money from webinars, the place to go is webinarcrusher.com. But even if you go somewhere else, that information is still out there. It's not like if I just hold back the money-making webinar secrets that no one ever is going to discover them. It's out there. We all copy. We all learn from one another. Neither of us really invented anything, so there's no reason in trying to hoard it all. We do want to have continuous learning and childlike curiosity, and this applies to you discovering new techniques, new ways of making money, and not suddenly throwing out the baby with the bathwater. But I've seen so many internet marketers come and go, and they keep marketing as if it's the year 2000 still, or the year 1997, and they just keep on doing things that are 20 plus years out of date, and it's having less and less returns, and they're just in denial. We don't want that. We want to play around with new streams of income and things like that. Then we have the kid test or the mom test. So can you describe whatever activity you're doing, like list building, Facebook fan pages, Amazon FBA, whatever it is? Could you explain this to a 5-year-old and to a 70-year-old? And would both of them understand it? And if not, then maybe you need to think more about what it is you're doing, because it's easy to fall down the rabbit hole and not be able to separate the forest from the trees, which means that you think, all right, well, I'm being a traffic broker. I'm running all these clicks to a retargeting campaign and Twitter, and you just have this whole spider web of stuff. But then it's like, well, what are you even building? It's okay to spend way more time taking action than spending time thinking and talking. So you're going to be playing around and doing different experiments. Some will pay off and some won't, but there's definitely you definitely have to know when to think and when not to think, right? And you don't want to think instead of taking action, but you also need to think in order to make your own decisions. So you might join our course at incomemachine.com, which shows you how to narrow down a niche, how to make an opt-in page, how to make a sales letter. But that first step, the deciding on a niche, well, that's an area where you actually have to make some decisions. And then later on, when make a headline, make an opt-in page, make a sales letter, you can check out a little bit, right? You can turn the brain off a little bit, but you need to make some kind of a decision. At this point, any decision is better than no decision. And that leads me to, you need to publish 100 actions, which sounds like a lot, but we're not talking about 100 actions today or tomorrow, but just over time. If you're getting into blogging, you should have 100 blog posts. And that sounds like a lot until you realize that, well, maybe if I just knocked out one a day, or if I paid $5 a day to some article writer and just like published 100 blog posts, or even did 10 at a time and got them all scheduled out on a timer. You need to make, if you're playing around with YouTube, don't just make 1 or 2 YouTube videos. Crank out a YouTube video every day so you have 100 YouTube videos, 100 Kindle books, 100 podcast episodes. That's my plan, but complete one at a time. There's no way I ever could have outlined 100 podcast episodes before recording my first one. You figure out one, or even start it without any kind of outline or notes, and see where it goes, because your first few, I don't want to say attempts, but your first few published actions won't be that great, and that's okay. You need to start somewhere, but you're going to make a lot more progress by kind of clumsily making some half mistakes that you can correct later. So give it 100 days. Give it at least 3 months or 100 days of consistent daily action, and make some progress every day, because if you make some money as fast as possible, even a little bit, even $100, that's encouragement for you to keep going, as long as you have the problem solver's mindset. So a lot of people make $100, their very first $100 online, by the way, and they say, but it's not 100,000. Well, okay, but you just made $100 from an area where, first of all, you never made money before, and it might have even been the first money that you generated, that you didn't depend on anyone else, any other single person to pay you. So you can, that's a great first step. You want to have an appointment-based business. And that means that we have our 4 daily tasks, but a lot of those 4 daily tasks that we complete are based on our Google Calendar. A pop-up appears, and I have to show up for a meeting with my business partner, Lance Tamashiro. A pop-up appears, and I have to show up for a pitch webinar where I'm selling our website remote service. A Google Calendar pops up, and I have to show up for, say, Module 3 of our Podcast Crusher course. But definitely not all, but I would say that at least one of my tasks every day is based on something that's on the calendar. A meeting I have to attend, where if I don't show up, other people are going to be let down, so I have to show up. It might be a coaching call, pitch webinar, webinar class, interview, something like that. If you don't have your own system and schedule, then everyone else will push and pull you in all directions. You don't want that. So don't plan out a bunch of stuff ahead of time, but do put out 100 things. And we're talking about completion. Day 1 in your internet marketing business is not when you decide to start. It's not when you start learning. It's when your first thing is published. And maybe you've heard this, or maybe you said this, but have you ever heard or said somebody say, well, I've spent $60,000 in internet marketing courses. I've been doing this for 12 years. They say, well, 12 years, man. Well, where's your website? Where's your list? Where's your blog? Where can I buy from you? Well, I don't have a website. Well, then you're still on day zero until your first thing is published. It's all about the repetition. You need to fail forward fast, as they say, and do what most people won't do. You can't learn to drive a car by reading the owner's manual 100 times or 1,000 times. You'll know where the windshield wipers are and where the gas pedal is, and those are good facts and figures and factoids and stuff. But to know to drive the car down the street and have the muscle memory on how to stop fast but not too fast and check your mirrors and automatically react if someone swerves into your lane, you're never going to pick that up by reading the owner's manual. But you get behind the wheel of a car for even a few hours and you can pick up a lot of that. Have a morning routine to get a jump on the day and do what matters before things distract you. So a lot of little hodgepodgey stuff there, but you need to have your end goal be 100 things. 100 Kindle books, 100 websites, 100 pitch webinars, 100 YouTube videos, whatever, but 100 is good. If you really put 100 days into something, and if we're talking about making money on Fiverr, making money on eBay, making money on Amazon, if you put 100 days and you honestly put in just even like an hour, even just one of your 4 daily tasks per day was towards this new income stream, and you honestly did it 100 times, then you'd be pretty sure if this was a money making avenue or not. You'd know if it was worthwhile or not, because we don't just want to tirelessly toil away. We don't want to just work away and whittle away until we die. We need a light at the end of the tunnel. So this is why it's really important to know exactly what you're building towards. And maybe that's 20 sales a day, 5 grand a month Fiverr income. You need to implement and experiment, and don't just learn just for the sake of learning or expanding your knowledge or whatever. Actually have something you're going to apply to this. Don't just learn membership sites just because I might know that someday. Join our membership cube course knowing what kind of membership site you'll make, what it's called, what the niche is, because at least that way you'll have a handful of problems that you can knock out one at a time instead of just kind of wandering around. Focus on just one thing at a time and improve just the one variable. And the first membership site you set up might suck, but at least you improved the variable of, well, you didn't have any sites now. Now you have exactly one website. And yeah, so don't learn just for the sake of it, and don't learn just for the sake of reteaching or cloning me or ripping me off, because it's just not going to work. And don't buy a course just to criticize or to convince yourself that you were right, because at that point you're just flushing money down the toilet. So anyway, we need to have a light at the end of the tunnel, and this is where being a data scientist comes into play. This is the 4th item in our list. The first one was complete for now, the minimum viable product. The second was publish 100 actions. The third was the light at the end of the tunnel. And now the 4th out of 7 do's is to be a data scientist. You need to crack the code. And so if we're talking about, and so I guess there's 2 ways this could work, right? One way could be if you buy a course or get coaching from us, from Robert Plank and Lance Tomashiro, about membership sites. You join membershipcube.com to do that. And you need to crack the code, which for you means the site's done, first of all, and that you're making some sales. And so you're going to make some mistakes along the way, but I found that if you leave yourself to your own devices and if you figure out that, well, I'll fudge it one way or another, well, you're not going to. And what's usually going to happen is you procrastinate. And so you remember, oh, geez, I bought that course 3 months ago. Now I feel really bad because, well, I put all that money into it. So you want to be a data scientist, and building on the idea of being complete for now, publishing something daily, and having a light at the end of the tunnel. Track your efforts and results in a spreadsheet, and use that Camtasia babysitter idea I gave you earlier for this. So if you're really having trouble sticking to whatever path you're headed down. And I mean, that's a really common thing, right? When you are your own boss, no one else in your life really understands what it is you do. You don't really have a support system or many people to talk to every day. So talk to yourself. Take out an Excel spreadsheet and track the things that you're doing every day. So I'll give you a few examples. One is this silly little site called Fiverr. You can find out about a site called Fiverr by going to profitdashboard.com. That's our course on this site called Fiverr. Now, Fiverr is a very high traffic site that's full of buyers that used to be a joke, because it used to be that you could go on a site called Fiverr and hire people to do almost anything for $5. Sing happy birthday to you, record and perform a cute little song. But now, in the last 2 years, Fiverr's added a thing called upsells. So now it's possible to make 50 bucks, 500 bucks in a transaction as a seller on Fiverr. So you are a kind of a glorified freelancer, but what's really cool about cracking the Fiverr code is that our very own Lance Tamashiro has consistently passed $5,000 a month from 1 hour per day. So now suddenly you're not just making $5, but you're making maybe 20 sales a day. And Lance in particular, he is performing voiceovers. So someone gives him a script to read into a microphone, and that's what he does. So sales might come in. So a sale might come in for, say, 20 bucks. And so we currently perform voiceovers for $5 for a 200 word script. So if a $20 sale comes in, then yeah, $5 for 200 word script. So if a $20 sale comes in, that's an 800 word script. So that would be about, I don't know, 6 or 8 minutes of talking. So if you get 10 or 20 of those coming in, and if they pay the upsell to get the audio in both a WAV and an MP3 format, if you know what that is, if they check the box to get the voiceover delivered today instead of in 5 days, well, now that $20 sale might be a 40 or higher dollar sale. And if you get 10, 20 of those a day from the same repeat buyers, you can just knock those out. So there's definitely an amount of the Roger Bannister effect going into place, where everyone was convinced until the 1950s that no human being could ever run a mile in 4 minutes, until one guy did it, and that same year a bunch of other people also did it, just knowing that it's possible. So you need to track your efforts, because a lot of times we say, I've done everything. I've literally done everything I could. Why isn't it working? And so in Fiverr, I was looking at how Mr. Lance Tamashiro has passed $5,000 a month. And I'm like, man, I got to get on that. An hour a day, $5,000 a month. That's some extra playing around money. That's something interesting. And then I kind of didn't take it too seriously and made a few $100 a month, and I mean, but didn't even put in a full hour a day. And then I realized, man, this must not work. But then I looked back at my activity, and in Profit Dashboard, there are certain steps you can take to ramp up that Fiverr income and get those repeat buyers. There are things you can proactively do to contact other buyers, other sellers, get yourself listed in certain areas. And I looked at my activity and I realized, well, I haven't been doing anything. So of course, it hasn't been growing the way that it should be. So let's tie that back into what it is that you're doing with your online business. The first thing is you need to identify and help out a little bit with the marketplace need. So if you're stuck with writer's block or topics or ideas or things like that, when it comes to blog posts, videos, podcasts, products, courses, it's simple. Just deliver on the thing people are asking for. If people are asking for how to knit their own cable knit sweaters, then that would be the book to make. But I don't think people are asking for that, but they could be asking for how to lose weight, how to win at poker, how to make money on Fiverr, how to create their own graphics without Photoshop. So we deliver on what the marketplace is asking for. And the problem solver's mindset means that, well, we have like a big goal at the end, right? Which is making money. And many people have really big goals. Well, let's just say, let's have just one sale. What would it take for you to get to that point where you just made one sale? We'd have to backtrack. We'd say, well, I need to have a payment button. I need to have a website. I need to have a members area. I need to have a domain name. And that's pretty much it. And you could say, well, I need to have an Instagram, I need to have a Twitter. Well, those are not the bare essentials to getting to that goal. And then we can say, okay, well, I need a payment button and a website, members area, domain name. Well, I can't really have a website without a domain name, so let me go and grab that. Even if it's the wrong one, I can always change it later for $8. Domain name done, website done. Okay, now let's connect it. By the way, you join our income machine course. We show you how to get a domain name, how to get a website. Members area, well, you can for now just put a simple download page or a one-page membership site and then just slap a payment button on it. Don't even worry just yet about your sales copy, headline, bullet points, text on a web page to make that sale. Just get a payment button on some kind of website today if you don't have it. And then we can, once we figured out, this thing we're going to sell, if you're going to sell a course, if you're going to make money as an affiliate, or going to make money from paid traffic, going to make money providing graphics, now we are in the cracking the code phase, where you make all the mistakes there are to make, you correct them, and then you streamline that checklist. Most people, when they think about a checklist, they want to just add and pile on stuff and make it totally idiot proof, dummy proof, and just have like a big thick operations manual like they do for flying the space shuttle. And I'm saying go the opposite way. If you think setting up a website takes 20 steps, well, could you remove a couple of those steps, right? If you used a tool like WordPress, if you used a tool like Backup Creator, if you used a tool like MemberGenius to remove steps out of that checklist, then you're saving yourself time and you're no longer doing the things that aren't working. You can waste a lot of money, or a lot of time, I should say, money too, I guess, a lot of time and money on social media and on Fiverr. But if we look at the things that we do that don't make enough of a difference, then we can stop doing those things and then track it, because you're fooling yourself into thinking you're doing so much. Like, your natural tendency is to think that you do a lot of stuff every day, when really, if you actually spreadsheeted it out. And I mentioned the spreadsheet because what Mr. Lance would do is, for a few months, he would just track literally all of his sales. If he had 10, 20 sales coming in during the day, he would put in a spreadsheet like the date, the username of the person who bought, the task that was going to be performed, the amount of time it took him, the amount of money he was paid. And that way, after a while, he could see the trends. He could see if his Fiverr business was growing, if it was worth it to have these upsells. He could see if the same people bought on a repeat basis. He could see what his average sale is and just tweak from there and figure out how to either get the same amount of money with less work and less time, or the same amount of work and make more money, or some combination of that. But you're fooling yourself into thinking you're doing so much. And I mean, don't do this every day. Maybe for one day, maybe today or tomorrow. When you sit at the computer, write down the time. So we say sit down at 9:30 a.m. and then I'm going to do this task, and then write down the time you get off the computer. We say, okay, 10:30 a.m. And it's going to be kind of interesting to see literally how many minutes and hours and seconds you put into the computer time, and how much of that is wasted, and how much of that time where you'd make the same amount of money even away from the computer by either outsourcing something, or using a tool to do it automatically, like maybe automatic backups, or just not even being at the computer, because some of the things you're doing, like playing around on Twitter and Facebook, aren't making any kind of a difference. And so I know all these things because I'm one of those nerdy computer programmers. So we're at number 5 now, where we're in a computer programmer's mentality, where we ask ourselves, how many gas stations are in the US? Computer programmers actually think that question through, and maybe you do too now, but the average person doesn't. The average person won't even go down in that logic, and that's why they're never going to be able to compete with you. And that's why we need to know, well, I've got this huge nut to crack. 5 grand a month on Fiverr. My first sale ever. How to get 1,000 subscribers on my email list, or even just finishing a course. Even just, let me just get to the point where I'm finishing watching these videos about a membership site. Well, you can't say, okay, step 1, watch 70 videos. Well, how about today you just watch the one video? You need to break the problem down into manageable sub-problems or milestones, and usually the number you're looking for is 4. Most problems you have, you can break them down into just 4 sections. And we did earlier. We said, how do I make my first sale? Domain name, website, members area, payment button. If you did those four things today, it wouldn't be the most pretty looking site, but it would get the job done. And if you felt like it tomorrow, you could add to it. It's okay to admit if you don't know something, because then the next step is to find out what you need to know. Now, I don't want you to play dumb. We said earlier that I do want you to be able to think and make some decisions. But the opposite side of the coin, the other trap that is easy to fall into, is where you're just convinced that you're already right. You're already in the right, and you join some course with a bad attitude, and then you say, well, if this teacher of the course, if they say something that I already agree with, then I know I'm right. And if I disagree with them, well, then they're stupid. I'm not going to listen to them. Well, then why the heck are you buying a course then? We don't want you to feel bad about yourself. We don't want you to throw away your whole business or throw away what you've built and start over. But I make the most money and the most progress when I admit that I don't know everything, and that the way that I do things, I probably do them because I've been doing them for so long. I don't want to change everything, but I do want to optimize what I'm doing for less time and more money. Some questions either have no answer or just aren't important. So don't go looking for so many questions. Don't fall down the rabbit hole, and don't fall into this trap where you just wanted to make a website about real estate, and next thing you know, you're learning how to program PHP scripts and WordPress child themes. That's going way off course. What we want to do is find a path, find any path to get to where you need to go. So that means you need to know where you want to be, what your next goal or milestone is, and how long you have to do it, 3 days and 4 tasks a day, and find literally any path to get where you need to go. And so if we're talking about making 5 grand a month on Fiverr, well, maybe you might have to put in 4 hours a day at first, and then you figure out how to dial it back. Maybe the first membership site that you create is going to be really ugly, or maybe you might even have to use YouTube to host the videos, or you might have to use PayPal to take your first payments and worry about the affiliate program later. But find a path to get to where you need to go. Now, second to last one, we're in number 6 out of 7, are the rough numbers. So we've talked about so far minimum viable product, put out 100 things in 100 days, know your goal, get to the light at the end of the tunnel, be a data scientist and track your efforts and results in a spreadsheet, and then be a computer programmer and break the problem down into manageable sub-problems or milestones. And then you need to know your rough numbers, okay? When I talk about rough numbers, I know that if I send an email to my list, I know about how many people will click. If I put out a podcast or a YouTube video, I know about how many views or listens I will get for that video or that podcast. I know what the average number is. So then I can look at it and kind of eyeball it, and I can say, okay, well, this is a low number, right? Like maybe this email subject line sucks. It didn't get the usual number of clicks. Maybe this podcast episode was really great because I got double the number of listens I usually get. So now we're on to something. And this is how 4 daily tasks came about, knowing our rough numbers. So I kind of know the number of help desk tickets we answer every week. So I can look at the help desk and I can say, well, I feel like I'm really busy with the help desk this week, but then I look at the number of tickets we answer and I'm like, well, it's about the same as it usually is. Or if I feel like, well, it's kind of a quiet week, but then the same number of sales or the same number of visitors are on our site, and it just kind of just feels differently. Sometimes things feel different because they are different, other times just because you feel different. So if I run a webinar and I look at the number of attendees, I can know if that was a good or a bad webinar. You need some degree of messiness in your business, so embrace the chaos. And what comes to mind are, first of all, our membership sites, and we have a lot of them. And in a perfect world, sure, all of everything I sold would be all under one single website. But I mean, what's more important than getting everything all neat and organized in one website is to get a website done. So if you have 10 separate websites, and if they buy 10 of your different products, if they have to log into 10 different places, then that's fine. That's always something that you can connect later. And people always like to use, Facebook or Google as the model for the one login solution, right? You log into your Gmail account in Google, and that gives you access to your Google Calendar, your Chromebook, your AdWords account, your AdSense account, all that stuff. But they forget that it wasn't always that way. That Google as a company, they allow their employees every Friday to have their own project, and so all these projects came about from just playing around and making this little website off to the side. And then when they realized that we can make more money by combining these sites together, then that was almost an afterthought. So it's okay to have some amount of messiness in your business. And when you set up membership sites and deal with money, payment processors, and someone might pay but not click back to your site, or somebody might refund, or somebody might buy and cancel, that's a messy thing to do with. And then you're going to have to, when it comes time to do the accounting or the books for your business, you're going to have to do a little bit of cleanup. That's just how it is. And when you hook it up to an affiliate program like JVZoo, ClickBank, Rapid Action Profit, stuff like that, it gets really messy. And then you have to figure out, well, then money came in, and then I paid some affiliates, and then I held the money for a while before paying them, and then sometimes if there were refunds, I didn't pay the affiliates, and that's just more stuff to keep track of. But the alternative is not making money. So you do have to embrace that chaos. And having 10 or 20 different membership sites might be a little bit of a management struggle, but you can use our website remote.com tool for that. And the alternative to juggling 10, 20 membership sites is either having no membership sites or spending 6 months figuring out how to combine stuff only to not make extra money. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So you're never going to be chaos free. Well, I mean, you could be chaos free if you were also money free, but we don't want that. What we do want is to separate the forest from the trees. And in any given day, you might do 50 or 100 small micro tasks, but we don't want to think about that. We want to think in terms of what are the four big things you're going to do today, and maybe it might involve answering a bunch of emails. Well, then that could be one of your 40-minute sessions, right? Or you might go and set up a bunch of Facebook ads and do some retweets and do some moderation in your Facebook groups. Well, then that's a whole chunk of just Facebook stuff. You don't have to track every little nook and cranny that there is. Just know your rough numbers. And finally, get a coach. Admit when you don't know something, because you can't juggle everything in your head. It's good to have the rough numbers. It's good to know where you're headed. It's good to know what your goals are. It's good to know how close you are to those goals. But you're going to come across some roadblocks where it helps to see what someone more successful than you is doing. And once you get to that goal, you get to that milestone of, well, I made my first sale. Well, you can't just stop there. Now a new set of problems have opened up. Now the new problem is, how do I get 10 sales? Then the problem is, how do I get to a certain level of monthly income? Or maybe I'll make a recurring membership site. How do I do that? I'll fill it with members. How do I keep my members in? How do I replace the members that have dropped out? So you see how now you had this one problem that you were only focused on, you solved it, now new problems opened up, and that's okay. That's part of being a self-employed entrepreneur. But you need to know what the next problem is that you're solving and know how to ask a real question. So I've been in masterminds, some good, some bad, and I got the most out of them when I came into the mastermind and I said, I have these four questions. I have these four areas where I'm stuck. And it's not just making more money, but I say, well, how do I double the number of sales of this course? How do I increase the number of people on this upcoming webinar? Here's a sales letter. How do I juice it up? I would just have four things that I needed fixing. So there's something to, first of all, not wandering through life, knowing where you're headed, knowing what your goal is, knowing where you're stuck, and also how to ask a real short question with a real short, simple, but powerful answer. So there's a thing that you might have heard of called role modeling, where I guess you're supposed to think about, like, what would Steve Jobs do? What would Henry Ford do in this situation? And that's helpful, but what's more helpful for me is think about what actual people I know would do in a situation, and also some anti-role modeling. So I would think about, okay, well, think about like some of my mentors, and I say, well, if they were stuck in this situation, and we said, how do we how do we what do we price this course? How do we make more sales about this? Or what about this one bonus? Then I would ask myself, well, okay, this one person that I really look up to and I've gotten a lot of good advice from, what would they do? But then I think about, well, what would such and such unsuccessful person say about this? Or someone that I don't even like at all, what would they do so I know to do the opposite of that? And I mean, you can kind of go crazy overthinking stuff, and that's where it helps so much to just get one single coach and not a bunch of coaches. If you go and ask a question in a message board or a Facebook group, you're asking 20 different coaches and they all suck. So get a real coach and find someone who has a real coaching program where you can hire them for 1 hour and figure out your Amazon FBA troubles. Figure out your Google AdWords troubles. We have a mastermind at doubleagentmarketing.com where we can meet every month and we will look at your sales letter, look at your PowerPoints, look at your business, and solve whatever problems you need to have. But you need to use these seven mindsets, these seven techniques. Minimum viable product, complete for now. Publish 100 actions. The light at the end of the tunnel. Data scientist, computer programmer, rough numbers, and get a coach. And as we're winding down today, I told myself I wouldn't focus on this too much, and we won't. 7 don'ts. Don't go down the rabbit hole. You don't want to learn how to be a computer programmer. You don't want to learn how to program C++ and rebuild a virtual server when you just wanted to create a simple ebook. The podcast I'm talking to you on right now is literally a $25 headset that plugs into my USB jack. These used to cost $35, but now they're even cheaper these days. And I know a lot of people, they geek out about, oh, I'm going to get an arm, I'm going to bolt it to my desk, and I'm going to get a $1,000 microphone and a pop screen and a mixer. But then when you listen to their mixer settings are all so far out of whack that it would have been better if they just used a cheap microphone. Or you hear like the chair squeak, or you hear papers rustling, and they got a fancy microphone, but the room that they're recording in sucks, or a bunch of different things. So you don't need to let the tiniest thing hold you up. And my question to you is, what would Donald Trump or Anthony Robbins or Grant Cardone or anyone you look up to, what if they were trying to figure out membership sites? What if they were trying to figure out podcasting? You might say that, well, okay, well, they would just record it, hand it off to someone to get it finished up. Well, maybe there's something to that. Somebody told me in our help desk the other day that he's been through our membership cube course and our income machine course, and it shows you the very first part of it shows you how to set up a tool called WordPress. He can't figure it out, even though there's the steps and everything. My answer to that is, if you can't figure it out, then hand it over to someone who can. Don't try to fit a square peg in a round hole if you can't figure out technical stuff. Go on this site called Fiverr, find someone who will install a WordPress site for you for $5, pay them the money, it's done. Okay? Don't wait, just take the action. Don't fall into victimhood or martyrism or waiting for someone else to do something. And it all kind of connects into control, because basically, if you are in control, then you have no one to blame but yourself. And if you tell yourself that, well, I'm waiting on someone else, or all my problems are someone else's fault, then you're handing over the control to someone else, and that way if your life sucks, then you're passing on the blame to others. It's a really slippery slope, and it's a real vicious cycle you can fall into over and over again. And fear feeds off of time, so remove time from it. If you have something that needs to get done, don't say I'll do it in 7 days. Make it one of your tasks today and do it now. And don't just fill time, because it takes just as much effort to do nothing as it does to do something. And don't be a pack rat, which means that if you have something that you write down or that you study, do it, take the action, and then throw away the notes, right? I mean, the biggest reasons why I think people fail is because they have self-sabotage, which means fear of success. They like to do things in parallel instead of serial, which means that they like to do 50 things at a time instead of one thing at a time, which is a lack of focus. People fail because they don't have enough confidence, or they have too much, pessimism, too much apathy. And that's where the 4-minute mile, seeing someone else who's already taken the path, like a coach, if you know it's possible, now it's a lot easier for you to take that action. And then I think that Another thing, as we're kind of winding this down, that's a big issue is self awareness, which is when to continue and when to quit. So it's really easy to just keep piling up the notes, keep piling up the notebooks, keep piling up stuff because then you feel like, well, okay, I've actually built something, right? I've learned all these courses, I've taken all these notes. Yeah, but you've built up a bunch of nothing. So, I mean, throw away all your notes. I'm throwing away notes right now and get rid of all your little used up byproducts or at least have an overflow folder. Okay, so I have this thing called an external hard drive plugged into my computer, and I will make a folder and I'll say, I'll put the year and the month and I'll just pile all my desktop files into that. So that way I can get to them if I wanted to months later, but I'm not looking at my desktop, just keep piling and piling and piling up. Don't sabotage yourself. This is called having one foot on the brake or having a reversion back to a comfortable state. Be uncomfortable now so that you can be comfortable later because your alternative is to be comfortable now and then really, really uncomfortable later when you run out of money. You don't want that. What Henry Ford says that whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So don't use weak vocabulary. Like, don't say that I'm going to try to do this, I'm going to wait, or I'm going to start, and unlearn that procrastination habit. It's gotten you this far, but it's going to hold you back, and you need to just get some stuff out there and take some consistent action and also complete something every day that someone can see you did it. Don't let the confirmation bias get the best of you, which means that that's reinforcing what you already know, or you go and ask around until you find the answer that you want. Example, I saw someone on Facebook just this morning asking about a thing with list building called single opt-in or double opt-in. All right, single opt-in means I go to your webpage, it says enter your name and email address to get access to this free book, enter it, I'm on a list. Double opt-in means I go and enter my first name and enter my email address, you say great, go check your email to get access to this book. I open up my email, find the link, click it, go there. I prefer single opt-in, but I literally saw someone post on literally 10 different Facebook groups this question. And the way it was worded is he wanted to be told that double opt-in was correct. And then I would go and peek on some of these groups, and some people would say, well, single opt-in is better because you get more spam complaints, but you build a much bigger list. It's way easier for people to get on your list. And this guy kept having all these objections already lined up for this question he was asking. I'm thinking, but didn't you ask this question because you don't know? And didn't you ask this question because you want to actually get the advice from others? But then you're already fighting someone who doesn't have the answer that you wanted. And if someone does come along with the answer you want, you say, haha, I was just right all along. Aren't I so smart? Confirmation bias, huge, huge thing to be aware of. And finally, don't let anyone take you for granted. And this applies in the relationship with your affiliates, joint venture partners, business partners, customers, people on your list, all that stuff. I mean, you don't want to just have a thankless job. That might be why you quit your employee day job, corporate America gig in the first place. Have a good support system of encouragement and be an indispensable resource. If you have raving fans, and sure, you're going to have some enemies too, but if you actually create software or create a course that really delivers on a marketplace need that is not being fulfilled, then that's great. And if you actually charge money for that kind of thing, then the money is even better feedback that what you're doing is going on the right track. Now, we don't want to rip anyone off or do anything shady like that. We want long-term income, but we do want some income. And I'm really tired of hearing the excuse that, well, you don't understand. I don't want to make money. I just want to change the world. I want everyone to know who I am. Well, yeah, well, you know what? If you sell your little course on real estate and you make a bunch of money, then it'll be tough for people to ignore who you are because, first of all, you'd made money and you're someone who's actually, supporting themselves and generating an income. And whatever amount of money you want to build up, whatever amount of change you want to do in the world, well, can't you do a lot more change if you have some money to donate to a charity or to start your own charity or to just help yourself out? Well, I think so. So it's not enough to just be an entrepreneur, it's not just enough to start things or buy courses. You need to be above average. And I think that you either are above average or you're currently destined to be above average. But you have to be this kind of person who has the problem solver's mindset. No one else is going to swoop in and help you out. Okay, if you're struggling, I mean, life is hard. If you're struggling making money on the internet, chances are you might stop struggling unless you change your course of action. You get a coach, you have a better mindset, you know your rough numbers, you know that you are heading towards that light at the end of the tunnel, you publish 100 actions, and you are complete for now. And you're heading towards that minimum viable product, the ugly website that at least can make one sale. You don't want to do 90% of a website and then give it up and then start over the next week on another website, go to 90%, give up again. You want to get to 100% and actually go all the way with it for 100 days by taking actions on it every single day. You make a website? Great. Does it have a payment button on it? Great. Is it making sales yet? Great. You got traffic coming to it? Great. Are you contacting X number of people per day to promote for it? Are you hooking it up to an affiliate program? Are you retargeting your subscribers? Are you building a list? Are you contacting other people you know in the industry to get a jump on the traffic? Are you figuring out how you can just help other people? Like maybe you are a realtor and you know how to run a webinar on, I don't know, real estate training um or I don't know if you can sell a house on a webinar or things like that, but what if you helped out other top people in that industry? What if you ran a podcast and you interviewed one person per day in weight loss? And you just had a daily weight loss podcast where you helped out others, and by doing that, you yourself got noticed and started to have in your mind what a weight loss product could be, what a weight loss membership site could be, without getting too crazy, by just having the minimum viable product in mind, complete 4 tasks per day to get there within 3 days, and then adjust from there. So whatever you're doing right now, today, in the next week, if you're making your own product, making your own course, or just consuming someone else's course, a lot of it is about mindset. And you might have access to the best tools, the best information, but if you already have made up your mind that it already won't work, or that it won't work for you, then you're already destined to fail. But if you have this cracking the code mentality and you say, I know what my goal is, I know what I need to do, I'm going to track everything so I know if I'm on the right track, what's improving, or if I need to course correct, and then just set that machine in motion. That seems like a way better plan than just winging it, which unfortunately is what a lot of people seem to do today. If you want extra help in getting everything figured out, go to timemanagementoncrack.com to get my course on how to have better control over your day. And if you're feeling ever, I don't know, confused, overwhelmed, lost, left out, then join our monthly mastermind at doubleagentmarketing.com, and I look forward to meeting with you in our very next group call to figure out where you're stuck and where we can get you over the hump, whether that's in any niche, whether that's with your sales letter conversions, with your list building, with your traffic, whatever it is. I'm excited to crack the nut for you and with you and solve that problem as an above average entrepreneur. Thanks for tuning in. This has been episode 83, The Laws of Success and the Problem Solver's Mindset. Become an above average entrepreneur, get results out of every course you consume, and succeed in every journey you take. Be sure to give us a 5-star rating and review in iTunes at robertplankshow.com/iTunes, and I look forward to talking with you and to you again